Well, good morning to Lianne Phillipson Nutrition. And I wanted to do a Facebook Live. I thought I'd change up the time and see how 10 a.m. works in the morning instead of in the evening. See if I capture anyone, or also just have this available for you to follow along and to interact with a little later on today, if that's what you're normally doing, as I tend to do this Facebook Live every couple of weeks. So thank you, and welcome to this Facebook Live. I wanted to talk today about low carbohydrate or low carb eating. I spoke about this last week with Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010, and it seems that it's in the news an awful lot more at the moment, and I'm not really sure why. It does tend to happen when we go through these different waves of diets, and different research is coming out, and there is an awful lot of research that's coming out about a low carbohydrate diet. So first of all, I want to explain a little bit more about what does a low carb diet mean. Well, I think we need to define carbohydrates first, because otherwise you don't really know what it is that you're lowering in your diet, or what on earth are you avoiding or eating too much of. So carbohydrates are those foods that give you so much energy. So the breads, the grains, nuts and seeds, although they're also higher in fat, they also provide protein, but they really are an amazing all-around food. So you might also think about beans and lentils, again, even though they also provide carbohydrates. Typically when you think of carbs, you're going to think of something a bit stodgier, like a white potato or any kind of potato. Vegetables, fruits have more carbohydrate value than, let's say, a protein or a fat. So when you're looking at these foods, trying to drill down to, okay, I think that's a carb. If I go eat a banana for breakfast, am I having too many carbs? I'm going to pretty much say across the board, not to really limit in any fashion any whole grains. So any whole food, which means that it's pretty much in the state that it comes from the field, the tree, the branch, the ground, whatever, in that whole grain state. And again, mostly in flours, mostly in things like, wheat or barley, or not that that gets refined as much, but we have this situation where we have these carbohydrates and then they get treated, they get refined, they go through mills and factories and all of those kind of things. And what comes out the other end is not the same in terms of nutrition as what went in. So understanding that anything that then becomes processed is different from the whole grain carbohydrate that I really want to speak about here. Studies show that having a very high carbohydrate diet and a very low carbohydrate diet, both of those situations are not actually optimal for our health. Coming back into talking about having everything in balance is always, no matter what research comes out, no matter what situation comes out. We've had the high fat diets and then the low fat diets, and then take the carbs right out and then have super high carbs. And we seem to go from this crazy, the gauge just goes from one end right to the other. And that seems to be more detrimental to our health. Now, I'm going to say that there are times where you might need to load up on carbohydrates. So eat your pastas all the time, eat your breads, eat your grains, all of those kind of things. Maybe if you're carb loading to go and do an Ironman or a triathlon or a long run or something like that, then those carbohydrates are extremely useful to build up all of that energy in your body. Not that you're necessarily going to go for a run after eating a big bowl of brown rice, but something like oatmeal. So whole grain oats, steel cut oats, that's a fabulous food for carbohydrate loading, because also it's really not refined. If you go and have one of the little packages of oats that have maple in them, that have some sort of flavoring or sweetness or something like that in them, that turns into a completely different food than just going to buy oats in a bag, box, container, something like that, that are just whole grain oats, and that's it. That's it. They're just oats, and what you do with them after is really up to you. So for instance, in my book Sprout Right, I have the Go Faster granola bars, which is a mix of a whole grain cereal, like a traditional pour your cereal in the bowl, add milk, eat in the morning, and also the whole grain oats. So we've got a different balance going on, and those kind of things are something to be mindful of. I caught a clip with a nutritional dentist the other day who was talking about how kids, especially kids, in the morning have their bowl of cereal, which was the refined carbohydrates laced with lots of sugar, and then these kids just end up not only going like this all day long with their energy, but also it really affects their overall health and then oral health and their teeth. So I'm not really sure if what I'm saying is new to anyone. I'm not sure if this is something that I'm saying that's new to you, but it's just good to kind of bring it back round again and just do a little bit of a roundup. So eating a low carbohydrate diet, I would like to perhaps rephrase it as the low refined carbohydrate diet, because taking carbs completely out of your diet is not a great idea. For the longest time, and it was just an evolution of how I eat, I really don't eat bread. Typically, I don't buy it and I don't have it at home. If maybe I'm out or something like that, then I might have a wrap of something, or if it's been ages and I'm going to have something. The other night I had a lovely veggie burger. I actually took the bun off because I just couldn't fit that amount of bread into me because I'd already had some other foods. So I just had the veggie burger plain. Some people choose to do that so they're not having as much refined carbohydrates. But how my diet has evolved is really to not have too much bread. In an evening, I don't really serve rice with our protein and vegetables because I'm always trying to get more vegetables into myself and into my children. So it's really more important to me to have that on the plate, and lots of things like sweet potato as opposed to white potato because there's higher antioxidants, lower glycemic index, which means that it releases slower. So the types of carbohydrates that I'm talking about maybe leaving out of the diet are the more white, the more refined carbohydrates. So think like anything that's baked, like donuts or danishes, pastries, croissants, all of those more baked with a refined white flour, even a white baguette, which I absolutely love dipping into maybe some sort of cheese or oil and vinegar mixed together. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to do that, but it's not something that I have in my diet every single day. Again, here comes the balance of having some of these great foods that you love, but then also not every day. So saving it to enjoy. Something like pita bread, even a white pita bread as opposed to one that has flax seeds in it and more whole grains in it, is a very different carbohydrate to a less refined pita bread or breakfast bread or something like that you can get. So sticking to a completely low carb diet, it's important for us to have some sort of carbohydrates. I normally recommend that your carbohydrates are eaten earlier in the morning so that you have more energy throughout the day. You can also have more carbohydrates at lunch, and then at dinner, typically just stick more to the protein and the vegetables. And that's a really great way to have a lovely balance so you're not carb loading before you go and sleep. We don't need the carbs as much at nighttime as we do during the day for the energy. So having, let's say, after you've been for a run or you've exercised, it's important to put the protein in, but then you also need the carbohydrates to put all of that energy back into your muscles, called glycogen. So again, my take on the low carb diet is more about having a low refined carbohydrate diet. Fruits and vegetables are all on the table. They can all still be in your diet. It's really important to have so many fruits and so many vegetables in your diet of all kinds of colors. Eat that rainbow every single day. If you're a person just likes 4 or 5 vegetables and that's your range, go for it. Keep on eating them. Don't give up. Don't avoid them and you think, well, I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't do that. Or if you're into organic eating, great. But if you're not and you think, oh, I can't eat that because it's super sprayed, give it a good wash. Don't avoid the food because you're not moving to organic. It's still better to actually eat the red pepper or eat the green pepper, yellow pepper, the corn, all of those kind of things. Do try and avoid as much genetically modified as you can. That's a really important one. And then when it comes to the grains and the pastas and the breads, I had a client the other day who we've been moving her more back, actually more onto grains and wheat or more gluten after coming off of it for a little while, and she tried spelt pasta and said her family didn't even raise an eyebrow about having spelt pasta instead of your typical white pasta. So brown rice pasta is also a really great thing to have because sometimes it is lovely to have a fabulous pasta dish. One of my favorite things to do at this time of year is chop up all those colorful baby tomatoes, some fresh garlic, some fresh basil, maybe even some thyme in there, and just make a big pot of pasta and then throw on this really fresh, beautiful tomato sauce. And it is absolutely divine. So there's lots and lots of carbs that you can keep in your diet. But if you're trying to balance your weight and you're trying to be super, super uber healthy, then having some in there, but again, the less refined carbohydrates are really, really important. So anything that does say whole grain, when you turn your package over on the bread or the pasta or anything that you're buying that looks like it's in a box or container or bag or something like that, you know that it's been processed. Look and see if it's blanched or bleached flour or anything like that that's in there, and then just go pick up another one that has some grains in it, some seeds, some whole grains, and all of those kind of things, and just see what it's all about. So lots and lots of variations on what we call a traditional low carb diet, which means you just take them all out and you just eat vegetables and protein, which is also a great way to eat, but it just depends on what you're doing and it depends on how you feel while you're on it. That deprivation of not having any kind of carbs or any kind of treats or sweets or things like that sometimes can be detrimental until you get over that. I'm more about putting all the good stuff in and crowding the bad stuff out. So really make sure that you're aware of what are the carbs that you're eating. The best way that I know how to do it is to take a notebook. I have 50 million notebooks hanging around. Take a notebook, write down everything that you're eating in a day, and then go back and have a look at it. Any client that comes to see me for a one-on-one consultation, I'm always asking for a food diary, not for judgment, but just to know what is it that's going on, what foods are going in, and what could we switch up so that we make it a healthier option. And sometimes there's just not going to be, and you're going to go out for dinner or you're going to have something, you're going to order the big dessert and share it, or order the big dessert and have it. You're going to go for ice cream or whatever it happens to be. However, that's more of a once a week, once every couple of weeks, once a month, once every few months situation, as opposed to every single day or a few times a week, especially if you're trying to manage your weight. So that's just to get the conversation going. Please do write down below, if you haven't been on the live and had questions, do write down below any questions that you might have about a low carbohydrate diet. You can always book a consultation with me, reach out and we can book a discovery call. And then also, please make sure that you listen into the Jerry Agar show on Friday morning, or especially over the next couple of weeks, where we're going to talk about, we're launching a new challenge at the end of the summer. If you've kind of overindulged over the summer, we've got something that we're going to be doing in the studio with a whole bunch of us, and we'll share with you what that is and how you can participate yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I love your feedback. I love hearing what it is that you want to hear about. So feel free to write in your questions to info@sproutright.com, info@liannephillipson.com, and then I'll bring it up in one of my live videos. Thank you so much, and have a super healthy day. Bye.